I loved Q, the character. I thought he was so fun. Yeah. And he was complaining about being human and like all the basic like human things. Yeah, like my stomach hurts. I'm like, I'm hungry. Okay, I'm gonna have 13 ice cream sundaes. That seems right. I'm very hungry. I've never eaten.
An entire conflict of having a back spasm.
Yes. Oh my God, it was so funny.
I felt that.
But I thought it was a great episode to pick, especially I've never seen any Star Trek. Cool. And it encapsulated kind of like what to expect from Star Trek, but like it in like a nice, neat bottle episode where I'm like, okay, I don't need like a ton of Star Trek knowledge to jump right in here.
Yeah, it's not heavy lore.
Yeah, it's not heavy on the lore.
Once you know
but
that there's this omnipotent guy that annoys them.
Yeah,
and also an android.
And it intrigued me, and I want to watch more. Yeah, I want to get into it.
YUNKJunk!
Oh, hey, what's up to our sidekicks and henchfolk out there in the mother-loving Geek Nation? Welcome to a special two-part episode wherein we say goodbye to Brian on the Cult Pop Podcast, episode 80, a show where we talk about TV, movies, Brian's favorite things, and all the other things that scratch Brian's nerdy itches.
Where's that located?
Where are you itching, buddy?
Oh.
Nice.
He's just gleefully like, everywhere.
We're coming to you live from YUNKJunk HQ above.
Every wrinkle.
Every wrinkle.
Every crevasse.
Every flat plane of my body.
A Bob-ass podcast production space in Philadelphia.
Smooth or rough surfaces.
We got it all. Hey, what's up?
I'm your boldly going host, JD
nice.
of Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex, located at 4327 Main Street, Philadelphia, PA 19127, a rad-ass comic shop, so come by my shit. With me tonight to talk is Alice.
Mario.
It's you.
It's not me.
No.
Fiji.
See, that's an inside joke because that's how my son says Luigi. He says DG. Maro and Ouija. And our guest of honor, Brian.
Thank you, JD.
No, it's going to be all snaps like we're in a cafe.
It has been my honor for about 5 years to be...
It's been that long?
Roughly, yeah.
Oh, I like it that way.
You have to repeat this
roughly
this speech for next week's show. Also.
This is only the first part of our two-part farewell special.
Yeah.
You can only talk about 2.5 of those years now. You can talk about the other 2.5 next time.
From
Yeah.
It was
very specific time frame.
19.
Yeah.
Remember when we were at that table?
Yeah. I love that table. That was a good one. It's mahogany. As mentioned, Brian will be moving on from the weekly Cult Pop podcast for greener pastures. So in honor of him and some of his favorite things, the main topics for tonight and next week will be by his request. Tonight we boldly go, but next week we will discuss what is arguably the best comic book event in the last 20 years. Tune in next week to find out. Here's a hint. It's really dark. But before we jump into any of that, we'd like to thank you for joining us. If you're here with us live, feel free to comment, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, so you know when we go live and also post new content. Also, email us at cultpopgo@gmail.com. We're going to...
I'm not familiar with Jamail.
Jamail?
You've met him. We're going to move on to the next segment of the show, which I call, what you been up to this week? I'm going to... Rob Patey caught it. Rob Patey's in the chat. You almost slipped to the old show name there, Jadles. I did. It's in my bones. Hey, Noel.
Bones?
What you been up to this week? In your bones.
I just movies are back, baby.
Baby. Which movie brought us back again this week?
I went and saw a film in the theaters. It was a little movie. It was a little comedy about two aging men. Trying to come to terms with family obligation, stress, recklessness.
Grown-ups?
Yes. Grown-ups 3.
Released Grown-ups.
It was Bad Boys Ride or Die. Also known as Bad Boys 4. Also known as Bad Boys Ride or Die in French. Yeah. Bad Boys for Life Part 2. Yeah.
BBROD, as we like to call it here on the show.
Classic.
I'm a big fan of silly action movies, and this was just a silly action movie. I had a really good time watching it. Sweet. It's made a bunch of money over the weekend, and everyone was like, movies are dead. It made a bunch of money. It's just
the
more
movies
money
are dead.
Than
Furiosa?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, fuck off.
Hand over fist.
Was it better than Furiosa?
Oh man, there's two totally different fucking movies.
The genres are.
Yeah, like,
although I did see the trailer for this movie when I went to go see Furiosa.
It was really funny.
So not
and
completely
it was
unrelated.
Really,
completely unrelated.
So I assume I'm the only person that's seen a Bad Boy.
I saw the first two.
I've seen at least one Bad Boy and maybe two.
I've never witnessed a Bad Boy.
Never seen a Bad Boy. They are.
I wouldn't call myself a boy, but like I've seen some boys.
Are you a boys
BB
to
BB2, a BB full FL,
not FL,
and a BB ROD. Ride or die.
I got it.
Yeah. Okay. It was very good. It's exactly what you kind of go to the movies.
Did any of them say I'm getting too old for this shit?
No, that's just implied. They're all about 60. Yeah.
Anybody complain about their 60. Joints?
Yeah, were there old jokes in this?
Stuff?
Actually, not many old jokes.
Okay. I know. In the Dial of Destiny, he was like, "I'm purposely not going to be complaining about my age, making jokes at the
sorry.
Yeah. So the cost of my age."
The movie, the last one and this one, are surprisingly emotionally mature in so much as they don't. Yeah, I know, right? Hey, I go to see Bad Boys for emotional maturity and car chases. No, they're surprisingly emotional mature. Like they have maintained basically the same cast, including like the kid actors for the last 25, 30 years. And you get to see them like getting older and having their own kids and blah, blah, blah. The movie starts with Will Smith's character finally settling down and getting married. And Martin Lawrence's character has a heart attack on the dance floor. So it sets up, so like their entire existence over the course of 4 movies is that Mike Lowry, Will Smith's character, has no family, is pretty reckless and rich. Doesn't matter. And Martin Lawrence's character is the opposite.
He's the man.
Yeah. is the opposite in so much as he's worried about everything and high cholesterol and the whole nine.
Yeah.
And then they set up the scenario where he is revived, cheats death, has afterlife visions. So now he thinks he's immortal and can't die, and the other one's having PTSD because everyone around him.
Interesting.
That's
it was
kind of interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a very good, emotionally mature movie, and it's directed by Adil and Bilal, who are the guys that did Bad Boys for Life, but also Miss Marvel. And what else was it? It's
Black,
Miss Marvel,
Gangsta, Image, Rebel.
They also did the Batgirl movie that was shelved.
I wanted that to happen so bad.
They are wonderful directors.
They did a TV movie for Scalped.
Sure.
Jason Aaron.
Oh yeah, it was never aired. It was for the UPN network. It was a network that like did it and never aired it because they went under.
That's two things.
Yeah, they have wonderful luck. But
really
these guys are fantastic. They're wonderful storytellers. The movie is a throwback to like 80s, 90s action movies, but it's visually very sumptuous. Like there are
love some
fantastic, innovative camera stuff. Like you remember the movie Doom where they did the first person thing?
I remember the game.
Now imagine that done well, and you can constantly keep changing the aspect ratio to what they're looking at in their face.
Oh, fun.
Like really cool, wonderful stuff. And then like the way that they depict the heart attack is like really artsy fartsy. Like it's just a weird movie, and it was wonderful.
Oh, that's great.
I had a really great time.
Did they have anything to do with any of the other Bad Boys movies?
This is very much kind of a sequel to the last one.
No, sorry, I mean the directors.
Just the last one.
Just the last. But they did the last one.
So the first two were Michael Bay.
Okay.
Yeah. The first one is like if you haven't seen it, you should totally rewatch them. They're fun. Like the first one is a very like dirty, gritty, late 80s action movie.
Nice.
You know, like very straightforward. It came out in like 94.
Oh, okay.
But it was very much of the same kind of like the first Beverly Hills Cop, 48 Hours, that kind of aesthetic.
We got another one of those coming too.
Yeah, I know, right? Really straightforward, really fun. The second movie, it was after Michael Bay made a lot of money doing like The Rock and Armageddon. It is a 2.5 hour movie with like 5 endings, and it's just gluttonous. Cars flipping on top of cars. It's really fun to watch, and it's probably one of the best action movies ever. But it's not seriously. Yeah.
Iconic.
Wow. Yeah. And I'm not the only person that thinks that. Like it's
Bad Boys 2?
Yeah.
Oh. Electric Boogaloo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like the part where they boogaloo.
But
That's always my favorite part. Yeah.
At the height of the movie.
Then there was like a 15 to 20 year gap between part 2 and 3 and 4. So they're just very different visually movies, but they're still fun. Like it's very charming people being capable for 2 hours. It was awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
So speaking of films, and going to the theater, and also sequels. When I went to go see Furiosa, which itself is a prequel,
yes,
to a sequel, but not the original.
Part of the Mad Max saga, I believe.
It is a Mad Max saga.
It's a saga within the Mad Max saga.
Every single preview trailer was for a sequel or a remake.
Yeah.
So it was like the Crow remake.
Oh yeah, that trailer was on there too for me. Yeah.
And a bunch. I'm trying to remember what else there was, but there was like every single
Beetlejuice. Well, that's a sequel.
Beetlejuice was in there.
Beetlejuice. Yeah.
Sequel. Everything was a sequel or a remake. It was insane. Including, and I think that was one of the other ones. Beverly Hills Cop 4, 5, whatever.
Oh, that's a Netflix movie, so it's not.
That's a Netflix movie.
You did not see that trailer.
Oh, but maybe I saw it that day before I went to the theater. Anyway,
he's made it his whole day.
Neat. Yeah.
Just sequels everywhere. I mean,
what movie?
Go ahead.
What movie was that for?
Furiosa.
Furiosa? Oh, yeah. Because I was wondering, did they particularly program that because of a nostalgia thing?
Right.
But Furiosa would not have. No. It's not Bad Boys 4.
Right. Yeah.
I'm super nostalgic for 2015. What are you talking about?
That's true.
It's if you're gonna go to the movies to see anything, see Furiosa. If you also want to see another movie in the theaters, it should be Bad Boys 4.
Right on.
Very fun.
All right.
Yeah, nice.
I still want to see Furiosa again.
Sure.
You make it a double feature.
I liked it so much. Anywhoomst, Rob Patey's in the Whatchamadilly saying they did a Clerks 3 because he has a heart attack in that too, right?
Yeah. They pulled a Clerks 3.
Yeah.
Except it was much more visually appealing and impactful because Kevin Smith doesn't like to move his camera.
He does not. Every one of our 90s loves are stroking and heart attacking in the first act.
Yeah.
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 No.
Because we old, fool.
Hey, Alice.
Hey.
What you been up to this week, huh?
So I also went to the movies.
Uh-huh.
I went actually on Monday.
Shut up.
Why?
How was your
talking
experience?
Then shut up.
How was your experience at the movie theater?
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because then I want to know yours.
Okay.
Yeah. It was good and bad, but then good again.
Okay.
I saw it on a Friday at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Packed. Packed.
What?
For Bad Boys.
Bad Boys for Life was
Hell yeah.
fucking packed.
Sure.
Okay.
Bad Boys.
I wasn't sure there was another movie that just came out.
This is the kind of movie where it's, jokes and action. So the communal experience is pretty good.
Nice.
There was a couple of points in the movie where the guy next to me and his wife, this older gentleman and his wife, were just like, that was great. Or like they were like, I was like, that's cool.
That's okay.
But that gave permission to other people to talk during parts that aren't communal.
Yeah.
Of like narrating things that are happening. Like, she shouldn't go in that fucking room. Like, and it's like, no. This is okay. That's not. There's like a subtle, but it all turned out okay. Yeah, some people want to be the main character no matter what, even in a dark room. Yeah, and don't do that.
Alice, how was your experience at the movie when you went to go see?
I was actually the one that was commenting, and
she really did not want to go in that room.
Will Smith, you're getting too old for this shit. Don't you know?
I was the main character that day. Slap.
You got what you wanted.
So I went to the movies because this weekend, and I'm still trying to figure out, I don't know why it was just this weekend, they did a re-release of all 3 Lord of the Rings movies.
Anniversary?
The extended editions.
It's not like any, it was the extended editions. I saw Return of the King, which came out in 2003. So it's not like it's the
21st anniversary.
But they did Fellowship on Saturday and they did 2 Towers on Sunday. And we didn't have time to go see all 3 because we had busy weekends.
Lot of movies.
I know, but I wanted to go see all 3. But we did Return of the King on Monday. And this is my first time seeing it in theaters. I've watched the extended editions multiple times at home, but it was super cool going in theaters. We went with a group of friends and there were like a bunch of other people there. Some guy had a Gollum mask on, which was really fun.
Nice.
And everybody was just really happy to be there. And it was really fun. Good vibes in the theater. And they did a little like memoriam for Bernard Hill, who plays King Theoden, who passed away May. And so his scenes hit a little harder. I cried more times than I usually do watching it. I usually cry twice. Then he cried like 5 or 6 times this time.
At what points do you usually cry, and what were the new ones?
What are the big hitters?
Okay, so my usual ones are when Aragorn says, "My friends, you bow for no one," and then all of Gondor bows for the hobbits.
The big one.
Gets me every time. And then when Frodo gets on the boat.
Oh, right at the end, both of them. Okay.
And
in like the third of the 9 endings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He gets on the boat.
There goes on, JD.
Yeah. And then like, it's really just when he looks back and he looks like himself again. And it's just like, my God, gets me every time. But I cried those 2 times. Then I cried Theoden's death when he's talking to Eowyn. And he's just like, oh, she's like, I'm going to save you. You already have.
No, man.
Tears. Oh, yeah, that got me.
That's good.
Pippin finding Merry on the battlefield and being like, I'm gonna take care of you. God. And then Gandalf's speech about what death is like for some reason hit me harder on Monday than it usually does. When he's talking to Pippin about like the White Shores and how death is just like the next journey we all have to take. And I'm trying to think if I had a rough day at work that day, and I'm like,
I brought it.
I'm came from the morgue, and I was like, this is fresh, this is real.
I'm looking up the screenings, and there's no anniversary. This is just like the first screenings of the 4K transfers for the extended editions.
And this is also the first time I've seen it in theaters. I never went to see him in theaters in the early 2000s.
Can I tell you that back then in the early 2000s,
I was there.
There was no,
but not at the movies.
Not in the movies.
There was no night before screenings.
Yes.
So we bought tickets to see a 3-hour fucking movie for midnight.
Midnight, baby. That was my favorite.
I used to go to midnight movies. I miss midnight movies.
But like a 3.5-hour movie at midnight's a little.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's long.
Yeah.
I remember we went to go.
They did trilogy screenings starting at midnight. So like you're in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But as someone who has gone to multiple 24-hour horror movie marathons, that's nothing. I do remember after X2 came out, we went to the midnight screening, and it was so popular that there was then a 2:30 screening.
Oh, yeah.
And we were like, do we go back in? Like it's 2:30 a.m.
What's the last midnight screening you all went to before they stopped doing midnight screenings?
Was it The Dark Knight where they stopped that?
Yes.
Because of the shoesting?
Actually,
no, they didn't.
It wasn't like immediately after.
It was just slowly after. A lot of the studios were just allowing people to screen.
Yeah,
like
they still do a midnight show. It's just not the
where,
or
it's
at least they
like
did when I was
here.
Not around here.
Multiplexes in other areas do, but not in Philadelphia, really.
Well, but even those, I think they now just also have a show at 7.
Yeah.
I think
and a lot of people
honestly,
rather do that.
I know, you just see it then.
I don't think it was a safety issue. I honestly think it was just like the studios and the exhibitors agreeing that we could squeeze extra screenings in if we do at 7, 8, 9.
It's the Thanksgiving Thursday thing.
Basically.
And you get more for your opening weekend numbers, right? If you get a whole other set of shows.
To answer your question, the last one that I went to was here at, so I've lived in this area forever. I would sometimes I'd have trouble sleeping. So on Thursday nights, if there was something, I would literally just walk to the movie theater a mile away and see a screening. I think the last one was one of the Iron Mans, probably Iron Man 3.
Oh man.
Because they weren't doing them at 7 but it was just like, we have a midnight show. It was relatively safe. So so I would just walk in the middle of the night and then come home.
Yeah.
Mine was the very last Harry Potter movie.
Yeah, me and my friends would do the Harry Potters, and our friend Becky was really into the sparkly vampires, Twilight. So we would go to the Twilight.
Never seen it.
I went to
midnight screenings
one
too.
of them.
I went to like the day the book was the last book was released. I was at the bookstore. I was that.
The bookstore.
I was that 16-year-old.
This was Harry Potter or Twilight.
Twilight.
The last
Twilight.
midnight movie I saw, I don't remember because I worked at the movie theater. And so I was either working the midnight movie or for a lot of stuff, we would get to see it ahead of time.
Yeah.
The day before when you
awesome.
build the prince.
That is
That's pretty cool.
Would often also be late at night, but after the theater closed.
Yeah.
So cool.
It was awesome. It was the best. It was great.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you finally got to see it in the big screen.
It was glorious.
It's
was
really
glorious.
something else.
And I think it's also one of our friends, Abby, she pointed this out. She's like, that's the first time, like I've seen this movie plenty of times before, but it's the first time I've watched it without like pausing it. Because usually I'll pause it, go take a break, pause. And she's like, I just sat there and watched it in one sitting.
How do you feel about the Hobbit trilogy?
I've never seen the last one.
Oh.
I've never seen the last 2.
Yeah, me
I've
neither. I saw the first one.
And I gave up.
Not that bad.
I don't think it's that bad
I love the
either.
book. And I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to seeing the other 2.
I
haven't.
I think the first one and the last one are good.
Yeah.
The middle one was like, all right.
It's the middle one Smaug.
Didn't need to be a movie.
I went back. I went back and I was like, you know what? It's probably not as bad as I remember. I'm going to watch the part 1 again. And I still was like, oh, fuck this. This sucks.
It is like the beginning of late stage capitalism in regards to like
How much can we
Studios.
stretch
Yeah.
this one story into
Like
3
Lord of the Rings,
movies?
we had 3.
They were already
Everyone wants to see all of them.
they were already stretching it to be 2 movies, and then late in the game they were like, make it 3.
Why not?
Yeah, because how long is the book? Not that long.
Shorter.
200 pages.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
if anything shorter than any single
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings.
trilogy
It
book.
is. It's,
yeah.
But they pulled in all the stuff from like the
Silmarillion stuff and whatever? Oh, did
and
they?
Yeah.
history. Like
Oh, all right.
they beefed it up and by using other stuff.
Right.
But it still was like,
I actually
remember
liked
when
the
we were just
Silmarillion?
following this
Most people
Hobbit?
did not.
yeah,
Yeah.
Mm.
You know
Yeah.
what always makes me cry in the 3rd Lord of the Rings?
nerd.
When
Nerd.
Samwise picks up.
Oh, that too.
If you can't
You
carry,
can't-
I can't carry, but I can carry you.
Oh
That's
my God.
I
I fucking sob when he does that every time.
So I famously, right before I got proposed to on a mountain, was quoting Lord of the Rings, and Costa was laughing so hard. I'm like, this isn't that funny. But like, I was like, why does he think this is so funny? Because I said jokingly, he's like, oh, I'm so tired, and I was like, I can't carry the ring for you, but I can carry you, and I like went to jokingly like put him on my back, and he thought it was so funny. I was like, all right, it's not that funny. And then he proposed. I was
Because
like,
he had a ring.
have a ring.
Hey. And then you tried to murder him.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
neat.
Yeah.
That was
Well,
a
he gave it
that
to
was
and
her.
then
Yeah.
he put it on his
That was
finger,
it.
and then I bit it off. And I got
That's cool.
that was a
proved your
completely
worthiness.
different mountain you're
That's nice.
referring to.
Oh, my bad. Hey, Brian,
Hey, what's up?
what you been up to this week, huh?
Oh, well, thank you for asking. I was watching the last few episodes of the final season of Discovery, Star Trek Discovery, which has been a great show. I really would have liked it to go a little longer,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
this season was really good. It touched on something. It was kind of a next chapter to something that was a really great episode of Next Generation.
Oh.
And you figure out, or you learn more about that. It's this incredibly powerful thing, and that's the thing that they have to take care of in some way during the season.
Now, hold on a second.
We're on
All right.
episode
I am-
6
Okay.
of the last season.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know where I'm at. I think
Like-
we sort of gave up, but like got distracted around season 3 or 4.
Okay.
So we still have to catch up. But can you tell me what episode of The Next Generation
sure
that I
can.
should watch before I watch season 5
You
of
don't. You
Discovery?
really don't have to.
I don't have to?
because I
No,
didn't.
no. It's just a cool thing.
It
Like I
wouldn't
think
enhance my enjoyment of it?
No.
it might enhance your enjoyment of it. It is actually one of the episodes that I considered to have everyone watch
For tonight.
for tonight, and I have that list available.
Nice.
And so but the season, they give you a little information about what it is, and if there had never been a previous episode, this season would stand on its own. Like you don't need to see anything from that. But they did do one of the few times, because they have a lot of records. So 2 or 3 times in Discovery, you see a clip from one of the other shows.
Oh, yes.
That, presented as
Yeah, I
like,
feel like-
this is our recording of this
I feel
thing.
like literally every other scene, she's staring at a picture of a progenitor.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't know what that means, so it doesn't matter.
I don't know.
They progenate.
Oh,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
progenate?
Yeah.
Like, and it's
Classic
it happens,
progenation.
it happens
Progenate.
so often. My wife was just like, the alien's really like he's just very upsetting looking with like no eyebrows and
He doesn't have any eyebrows. that's true.
like it's just
Or
it's
they.
like,
It's really unclear.
just smooth face.
Yeah, very
and
smooth
like
face.
just hairless, and
Oh.
they just constantly popping up the face, and it's just like, all right, we get it, it's fine.
There's a jump
Move
scare
along.
constantly.
Move along,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like that old where
Yeah.
the car is going around.
Yeah.
And like the girl from the breaking.
Really takes you out of the story.
Yeah.
Basically, it's just
Of
like,
a car.
they have got that wonderful technology where she just like flips up view
Cool.
screens, and it's just like face,
Yeah.
bring it down.
Now, Noel, you touched on
Pretty jarring.
something that I think has been really cool in this season. So a few seasons ago, they jumped ahead like 900 years.
Yep.
Rob Beatty says, no need to watch the Next Generation progenitors.
Now, some people don't like this episode, but it is one of my favorite
Some
episodes.
people in the chat.
Yeah. Rob Beatty is one of those people.
Some people need to shut up.
No, there's actually a lot of feeling. I brought it up a few shows ago. There's a lot of feeling about that episode that people are like, this is one of the worst episodes. And I think it's awesome. Some of the part they don't like about it is like, the genetics don't make sense.
Oh.
I'm like, I can make it make sense. It's fine.
I mean, it's also Star Trek.
Yeah.
Right.
Relax.
It works
Yeah.
within
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
framework of like,
What, there's
Relax.
fire in space?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
it's because of the stuff that they have in the ship. Yeah, no problem. So anyway, you talked about something that I have loved in Discovery. They show a really cool evolution of the technologies that Star Trek has had, you know, because at this point also Next Generation, the technology is not as advanced, you know. The Steve Jobs created the iPad based on the pads that are in Next Generation. Like in the room, he was like, I want something like the pads on Star Trek.
Yeah, like having a
I
reflector.
didn't know that.
Yeah,
cell
like,
phones too, but from the original series.
Capacitive technology, pretty much touchscring that's like glass. It's inspired by Star Trek.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's a really cool fun fact.
Yeah.
And was the Apple Watch because of Dick Tracy?
It wouldn't surprise me if that was just in the consciousness because of that.
Yeah.
It does way more than his did. So yeah, I've really liked how, for instance, they now have like a transporter pattern buffer kind of thing, and they can. What's happening?
There is one piece of the there's one piece of the technology that I don't like, but otherwise,
is it the mushrooms?
No, I love the sport technology. Cool. That's great.
Yeah.
I love the transporting. Like, anybody can transport really anywhere.
But they don't need transporter rooms.
Yeah. It's all a part.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't like that they could just summon phasers.
Oh, see, I like that.
I see.
I don't know. It's kind of like I'm not an actor, but like physical space in a scene and or limitations of the character, what they have in the moment. It's like I'm not a giant fan of Iron Man being fully nanotechnology.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Just like they literally could just be like gun, and then that gets blown away, and they're like another gun.
It's like Tobey Maguire having organic webbing.
Kind of,
right?
It's
like never run out.
It creates a limitation of.
I thought Jerry Maguire for a second. I'm like, what?
Show me the webbing.
You had me at hello.
Tiger.
I love. You hit the jackpot at hello. I love all of like the view screens and the
their comm badges are now
the badges,
like a holographic.
I love
tricorder scanner, you know, and they get the readings just like that.
The only thing that throws me off is like the.
I can see
gun.
from
the only thing.
Narrative perspective, as an in-universe like evolution of their technology, they have little pattern buffers that can hold information, and they were able to like kind of do that once in Next Generation time, and now their technology just does it, and they can call forth weaponry. She did in the final episode get her phaser kicked away and didn't immediately have another phaser. So I think it might be like
we only have
room for one. Yeah, you know, but no, definitely earlier in the season they did have two.
Yeah,
or at least two.
They were hunting one of the clues, and it was just like,
I got another one.
Why is it?
But it hasn't gotten in the way of the story.
No, it hasn't gotten in the way of the story. It's just like that one piece of like future tech that I'm just like.
And it's not like I'm not a big Star Trek guy, Trekkie, if you will, but like it doesn't seem like that show is reliant on weaponry a lot. Like I mean,
it comes
shootouts,
up, but
historically, no.
Yeah.
Disco,
more so than the others for sure.
That's true. It's way more violent.
Yeah, but there's still a lot of other like cool, thoughtful, philosophical stuff going on. One last note on the technology thing: they've kind of merged their teleporters, replicators, and transporters, which they always kind of talked about as like, oh, a little, and the holodeck sort of like, it's kind of similar, and now it's just like one technology that makes things for them and brings them places and whatever.
I've watched all of it up until this point and was riveted and really enjoyed it.
All of what?
Discover.
Oh, okay. Cool.
For the life of me, I still can't remember or make sense of how Dr. Culper is back.
Oh yeah, he came back with the mushrooms.
It still is wildly confusing.
Yeah.
It's like it's hokey pokey science, but it's also like
magic.
Just a little,
just a little bit of like fairy dust.
We don't know how it happened.
I mean, I love the character. Glad he's back.
He is one of my favorite doctors.
He's so cool.
He's so good. He also takes on. What's that?
Who's Dr. Culper? I'm thinking Stamets.
Yeah, but they're together. They're married.
Oh, the guy from the 90s TV show.
My So-Called Life.
Yeah.
Oh, is he really?
I like him too. Yeah.
He's one of my favorite doctors. He's also takes on the role of a therapist when they jump into the future, and he is great. I've also really enjoyed the new first officer this season.
He's my favorite.
He's so good.
Whoa.
Every single episode, Sam and I are like,
oh, Saru.
No.
So he's still around, but he is off doing something else at the moment.
What's his name? He's so good.
I forget his name too, but this guy comes on in the first episode. He's the captain of another ship. He makes a very dangerous call that ends up turning out all right, but it's bad. But he's like a decorated officer, and they're gonna drum him out of Starfleet, regretfully. like honorable retirement. But she convinces him like, come and be my first officer. Yeah.
Caleb Keith Rennie is the name of the actor. The character is Rayner.
Yeah, okay.
First officer.
And so he becomes the first officer, and he's like a little hesitant at first, but in classic Star Trek style, he's rough, but he is a really good guy, and he always makes the right call, and they come to...
He is the best new character. And honestly, I knew going in, this is the last season, it almost pissed me off. I was like, this is the coolest new character.
See, because I want more of this.
And I want more of him.
Yeah. I could have gone for, as much as I loved seasons 1 and 2, I really could have gone for somehow just starting it in the far future and seeing 7 seasons of this.
So Rob in the chat has jumped in. Disco lost the step of Danger and Star Trek Deep Lore when it went to the 30th century. Was better as a prequel to the original series. Things have become a little too easy in the 30th. I'll agree with you in so much as the technology, but I'm actually glad that it's the first Star Trek series that is actually going further and doing new things as opposed to constantly mining old stuff. The new show that they announced is Starfleet Academy.
Is set in this future.
That was my question.
Is it?
That was my question. I was like, are you going to do another prequel show? Because we have a good prequel show. I don't want another prequel show.
Yeah.
But it start because like they're rebuilding the Starfleet, and I was like,
right. There's not been a class before this, and it makes sense that that's when they would tell it. And I was really hoping that they would.
Maybe Tilly will be in it.
I hope so. It seemed like so when she stepped away from the show, it was apparently partially to do a Broadway show, but they started talking about Starfleet Academy at that time, and her in-character reason was that she was going to go work at Starfleet Academy. So it really seemed like she was going to be on that show.
Even her whole thing this season is just like she wants to teach students how to be.
Did you guys hear some of the casting for that new show?
Paul
Giamatti is
Hunter,
a recurring villain, and Holly Hunter is, I think, a main character.
Paul Giamatti's the bad guy, the recurring bad guy,
who apparently loves Star Trek.
He's the bad guy in Big Fat Liar. Another weird movie from the 2000s
that doesn't have Richard Grant in it.
No.
Yeah.
Richard
E. Grant. Oh yeah,
who is now in canon a doctor.
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
Robert Monroe says, "What's up, Cold Poppers? They were supposed to have a 6th season.
That would have been nice.
Got canceled? It wasn't doing well?
It got canceled. They're very expensive shows.
Yeah.
And look at CBS wanted to do a new one.
Focus on a new show.
So they dropped one for the other one.
Bummer. I can understand that. It was really good. And as much as I would have liked, I really got used to 7 seasons, Robert Monroe Jr. back in the 90s and early 2000s. And then when Enterprise only had 5 or 4, I was like, what happened? But this one, I really would have liked more. There's a part in the finale where you're like, oh, this is the part that they talked about where we were able to film a little bit more.
They did a coda, right?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, but I heard that they were able to film
something
some
that
stuff.
coda or just in a few more scenes that you're like, oh, okay, cool. That was a good wrap up for Discovery.
I mean, historically, Star Trek never ends.
They could show up at any time.
Yeah. The original series was canceled.
When we get
20
into
years later, you get 8 movies.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, a Paramount show, like Section 31 is now I don't know how long it is, but it's a TV movie, right? And was originally talked about as a show. There could be a TV movie of this. They could show up on the Starfleet Academy show
also, like,
or both of those.
The Kelvin universe isn't even dead yet because they keep talking about doing another 4th movie. Yeah,
sequel in that universe. Very strange.
Star Trek never really ends because they will show up everywhere. I
can't wait for that made-for-TV movie because I like Georgiou. She's the reason. Michelle Yeoh is the reason I watched any Star Trek because I heard she was going to be on it, and I was like, well, I guess I'm going to watch a Star Trek now because she's on it.
Yeah.
And she's what got me into Discovery.
Yeah. This should be coming out soon. You also, I think, would really like David Cronenberg's character.
Oh, I do.
Cronenberg sounds funnier.
I've met him. Cronenberg.
Yeah, isn't it the Cronenberg?
Maybe that's what he serves at his Cronenberg barbecues.
Cronenberg's Burgers.
I would absolutely have a meal at Cronenberg's Burgers. Yeah. Cronenbergers. Because they would be the most fucked up burgers ever. It'd be like body horror.
Raw meat spread around the tray.
There's a VHS tape in my burger. Why?
There's a VHS tape made out of teeth. No, it's made out of teeth in the middle of my burger.
And you have to eat it with your belly button.
Yeah. I would go there.
So JD, what you been up to this week? I'll tell you, it's been Star Trek Picard. We've been doing a whole Star Trek thing, not on purpose.
No,
we've just been catching up on Picard because we wanted to. It had nothing to do with this show or anything.
You're a little bit in.
I'm in.
Cool.
We finished it.
Oh, you finished it?
We finished season 2 of Picard.
Nice. Very nice.
And So I'm not a big The Next Generation guy. I only watched like 3 at this point. But
including one for tonight's show.
Yes.
Yeah.
We really enjoyed Picard season 1. And then, we finally got around to season 2, which my draw for this one was Alison Pill.
Ah, yes.
Who I know from Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And this really deals with the return of the Borg.
Yeah,
which
right.
I don't really have that much experience with the Borg. I know that Picard became a Borg, and there's something about 4 lights. I don't know.
That's a totally
I've never
episode.
Borged.
Oh, is that not about the
That's
Borg?
when he's captured by the
don't know what a Borg
Cardassians.
is.
I have a t-shirt that says it.
Oh, yeah.
I have no idea what's happening.
It's a hive mind.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so they got a new actress to play the queen of the Borgs. The Borg queen? Yes.
Did they? That wasn't
Nope.
Okay.
That was I looked it up because I was like, that doesn't quite look like her, but it kind of does.
Krieg
Yeah.
something. The
and
previous
then
one.
the woman who played this Borg queen actually passed away after filming that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was awesome. I really like this. It delves into Picard's childhood and deals with some trauma that I don't know if we knew about it ahead of time, but
Not at all.
yeah, okay.
It was never hinted at. In fact, they have a line in there about how he, in a vision, sees his mother as an older woman.
Yeah.
And there's a line in there that's like, at this time that this happened, I even saw a vision that wasn't true.
Oh.
That, because she doesn't
get old. Yeah. But yeah, this was delightful.
It's like an early episode. It's a very small thing. Just to illustrate that there was nothing about this in previous. He had a bad relationship with his dad. That does come up a couple times in Next Gen.
That they
seems all right.
Sort of, they fixed that a little bit.
With Gaius Baltar.
Yes, I was like, is that the guy from? It was.
Yeah. He's so good. Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar Galactica. He was a little vampire.
Dude.
He does kind of look like a young Richard E. Grant.
He does.
Yeah.
He's not kidding.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really enjoyed all the new Borg stuff. It's also a time travel show, which I really like. So they're in Star Trek time, whatever year that is. And then
24th century.
Yeah, that one. And then they travel back to 2024 because Q shows up.
Yes.
And he's a trickster. Yeah, you know that guy. So yeah, he does something where he puts all of the people from Picard's crew in another reality where shit went really bad. And so they have to go back to 2024 to see what Q fixed or what he changed.
Yeah. I liked how they dealt with, because he's Q, he can look like whatever he wants.
Yeah.
How you kind of see him blurry in the background and he's like, oh, you got older. I'm going to do that too.
Yeah. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was really fun. I really liked this.
Nice.
I liked Alison Pill. I like what happened with her and the Borg Queen. I thought was really fun. It was also really cool to see a young, I'm looking for her name.
Guinan. Yes.
Whoopi Goldberg.
I was going to say, is that
she
Whoopi
was
Goldberg?
Awesome. Yeah.
Who famously wanted to be on next. She ran into LeVar Burton at like an NAACP convention or something like that, and said, "I love Star Trek. Uhura from the original series was such an inspiration to me." Yeah. She said she ran to her mom and said, "There's someone that looks like us and she ain't no maid." And this was like so moved by Star Trek. And she goes to LeVar Burton and she's like, "I would like to be on Star Trek." And he told the producers of Next Gen, and they thought he was kidding, because she was a really big star at the time. And she's like, "I'll sweep up in the background as long as I'm on it." So they made her Guinan, Picard's like closer than friends, closer than family, confidant. And it was cool seeing her in the season.
Yeah, it was really fun.
I remember when it was airing, like I wasn't really a Trekkie, but I remember, I see her everywhere. She was like one of the most popular box office stars in the world.
Yeah. Whoopi Goldberg, yeah.
But then being like, is she on a TV show? Because at the time, movie actors did not appear on TV shows.
It was
period.
like
and TV
black
actors
mark on their resume.
It was like slumming.
And they brought back Wesley Crusher in the last episode.
That was very cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's been a lot of times during this show where I was like, is that a reference to what happened before? Like, was Wesley Crusher this thing that they're saying he is now? And they're like, I don't think so.
He was somebody very important there was like something about him. The Traveler came and visited him, and he was like the next step in humanity. He was like Mozart or whatever, right? And then he comes into some kind of power by the end of that show. You don't really know what it is, but the Watchers are a reference to the original series.
Yeah.
There was going to be a spin-off starring a famous actor who I do not now recall, and Terry Garr was in it too.
Oh.
And they were going to be set in this time doing stuff that the Watchers did, but it never happened. So that's a reference to that.
Christian Slater, Mick Fleetwood. Many big names have begged to trek.
Yeah, of Fleetwood and Mac.
Yeah,
That's
Christian
neat.
Slater was in it. What's the really blonde, light-eyed guy that Damien Dark in the Flash stuff?
McDonough.
Yeah, he was in Neil McDonough. He was in some. Adam Scott has a small role in First Contact, I think. On the yeah.
That's fine.
So was Neil McDonough was in
that the
First
same one?
Contact. Yeah, they were both in First. Speaking of Star Trek, though, I think it behooves us to move into our main topics.
Yeah, we got 20 minutes left.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Q Picard relationship in season 2. What do you think?
Oh, I mean, I was confused by it, but at the end, I was like,
you were into it? Nice.
oh,
right.
And I liked that it was basically a wrap up to one of the episodes we're about to talk about.
Yeah, so great lead in for that.
Deja Q.
Yeah.
So we asked Brian, give us 2 episodes that or maybe you would want of any Trek anytime. As long as it's streaming, so we can actually watch it.
Yeah, which it all is.
So the first one he picked was Deja Q from the Next Generation. It's the 13th episode of the 3rd season of the American science fiction television show Star Trek: The Next Generation.
What an eloquent way to put that.
Yeah. Thank you. It's almost like it was written down. So it's streaming on Paramount Plus if you're so interested. Starring Patrick Stewart, Brent Spiner, John Delancey, and Whoopi Goldberg. Picard's nemesis, Q, claiming to have lost his powers, appears on the Enterprise. Some of Q's enemies arrive to take advantage of his vulnerable state. Originally aired on February 5th, 1990. Yeah. So what was it about this episode that you were like, I got to make these non-Trekkies watch this Trek?
So here's the thing. I found it very difficult to narrow down one of, if not my favorite show of all time, you know, like historically, which one episode will encapsulate this show, right? I wanted to show off Picard and Data foremost, but one that had a little bit from everybody would be great, right? Because all 7 of the main bridge crew are awesome.
Yeah.
Q is one of my favorite characters. One of the ones that I have an action figure of, and that was very cool to find.
I love that.
And thank you. Also Data and Picard. And so I thought that would be good. I wanted one also that had like a good Spirit of Star Trek kind of thing. And I hadn't seen this one in a while. And honestly, I thought that it had a little bit more of like lessons of or for or about humanity kind of Star Trek stuff. And, you know, because these things kind of all blend together. But there were a couple of very good lines in this that I've always remembered have stuck with me. And so that was about it. I considered a bunch of others. At the end of this part, I'll read through them without talking about them, just for other recommendations. And, you know, as soon as I said it, I was like, but what about this one? I know I said to you guys, Redemption parts 1 and 2, but it's a 2-parter and we don't have so much time. So those are the things that made me, and it's fun, right?
Yeah.
It ends on an upbeat.
It's got some
things.
It's got some whimsy.
This is a bottle episode.
Yeah.
It's character focused, brings in a bunch of things, and it's just a moral quandary, which is basically Star Trek.
Yeah.
Like a little radio play.
Yeah. And I wondered as I was watching it, I was like, is this good for people who haven't seen Star Trek at all? Will they be into it? They know who Q is maybe from this episode, but I know and you know, but you've never seen Star Trek before at all.
This was my first Trek.
I'm really interested to see
the movie.
Let's start with Alice. This was what's it called? Oh, Deja Q is Alice's first Trek.
It was my first Trek.
Your first Trek into the stars.
Into Trek.
Is there a reason you haven't watched Star Trek? Do you find it impenetrable or
penetrable?
Yeah. So I actually was just having this conversation with someone the other day who wants to get into Star Wars. And they were talking to me about it because I love Star Wars. Yeah. And they're like, I was telling them how much I love it and like what I love about it. And they're like, it just seems like there's so much going on. It's been going on since the 70s. Like I can't catch up. I'm like, just do it though. Just get into it. And like,
shut up and do it.
Yeah.
Don't tell them about the fans.
Oh,
no, I'm telling them about the fans.
Tell them to get off Twitter.
I told them not to listen to the fans. I was like, I'm of the mind, if you have watched something that's Star Wars and you enjoyed it, you are a Star Wars fan. Yeah. And so I told her that. I was like, just enjoy it. Enjoy it. And so I was like, okay, this is my Star Wars, Star Trek. And I had a lot of fun with it. Awesome. And I loved it. I thought it was so much fun.
Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah. I loved Q, the character.
Yeah,
I thought he was so fun. And he was complaining about being human and like all the basic like human things.
Yeah,
like my stomach hurts. I'm like, I'm hungry. Okay, I'm gonna have 13 ice cream sundaes. That seems right. I'm very hungry. I've never eaten.
An entire conflict of having a back spasm.
Yes. Oh my God, that's so funny.
I felt that.
But I thought it was a great episode to pick, especially I've never seen any Star Trek.
Cool.
And it encapsulated kind of like what to expect from Star Trek, but like it in like a nice, neat bottle episode where I'm like, okay, I don't need like a ton of Star Trek knowledge to jump right in here.
Yeah, it's not heavy lore.
Yeah, it's not heavy on the lore.
Once you know
but
that there's this omnipotent guy that annoys them.
Yeah,
and also an android.
And it intrigued me, and I want to watch more. Yeah, I want to get into it.
He even clarifies in this episode, which he doesn't always do.
I'm not a robot.
I'm not a robot. I'm an android.
Yeah.
I am an android. Can't use contractions.
What do you need? Like what I just thought of this episode?
Well, I mean, this isn't your first Star Trek.
No.
What was your first Star Trek? Or at least what series?
Remember?
Was it a movie?
Was it that long ago?
It was a movie.
Okay. Yeah, my movie was probably the one with the whales.
Star Trek 4.
It's
one of the best.
I saw 3 in theaters.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I saw Search for Spock in theaters, Con on video, and then every summer that a new Star Trek movie came out, I was like, yeah, let's go.
So it was the original series cast was your
the original
first
series
exposure.
Cast was my first exposure,
Okay.
and I don't think to this day I have gone back and watched the show all the way through the OGN.
Sure. Yeah.
OGN.
Nah, I got it. Nerd.
And I remember watching out of order syndicated episodes of The Next Generation at times, and I remember the Deep Space Nine 2-episode premiere on CBS.
Yeah.
But then it was randomly scheduled in syndication, so I never continued the show. Same thing with Voyager, UPN. I tried
Firefly.
I always tried the first 2 or 3 episodes.
Yeah.
But never really continued a whole series.
Also very good shows. Deep Space Nine especially.
I loved the J.J. Abrams reboots.
Oh, sweet.
Nice.
Okay.
I thought they were wonderful, and they're actually very good entry points.
Which ones were those? Who
Star
was in
Trek
those?
2000, Chris Pine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kelvin Universe.
Yeah.
I thought that it was a masterstroke of
That was cool.
maintaining continuity and creating continuity that was
in the
maintained
universe. There is
continuity.
a reason that the Kelvin universe exists.
It's like,
and they
is it
later
just a
reference it in
branch?
Discovery.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a
I like
branch.
that.
Yeah. It is.
It's cool.
It was a way to reboot in continuity while maintaining both.
Yeah.
And it still wasn't.
I remember being really
fans
impressed
still
by
didn't
that
like
too.
it. Well, whatever. Real fans, but that was the. I think that was probably the flashpoint of me being a really big fan. Because it increased my appreciation of the older stuff, because I was like, all of this can exist at the same time and everything matters. But then also we were getting big budget, really crazy, cool Star Trek movies at the same time, which begat the discovery of it all. And that style was maintained for the new episodes, which are still, they're still respectful and reverent to Star Trek thematically.
Oh, very much so.
But they're modern.
Yeah. And they don't they have the same goals and ideals, I think, and they reference it in really cool ways, but aren't beholden to previous things.
You had mentioned before we started recording just the style of these episodes are very 1990, late 80s, 1990, which if you're watching them streaming, sorry, Gen Z, if you're watching these streaming and they're really, really great for you, there are music stings for commercial breaks. There are dialogue cues where people know that there's a break in the action. It is not
a fade to black,
a fade out and then a fade in on the same scene.
It is a old school television show. So I think
and they repeat what they said right before they fade out.
They're stage plays. It is people talking, not whip pan.
You will note it looks really good, right? For what it is.
Yeah.
So it was such a popular show. They had the film, the original film.
Nice.
So when they put it onto high definition, it is just as good as anything shot in high definition.
It's a mostly lossless transfer. And they also redid special effects.
Yes.
They have in here
very subtly for the original series, especially.
Yeah. They have redone.
Not next
gen.
gen.
I think they did so for this one too, but not in a way that you notice if you're watching it.
Instead of models, they would clean it up with CGI or if you're seeing the
exterior shots
nebula
really
of an exterior shot, before it looked like watercolors. Now it looks like an actual animated thing. They went in and cleaned it up.
Now,
I
what do you think
remember
of
in the
this
beginning,
episode?
I thought it was.
I thought this episode was wonderful. It was
nice.
very Star Trek.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
It was just very Star
great.
Trek.
Yeah.
Like it was
Lighthearted, good message.
Yeah.
it was just so very Star Trek.
Nice.
I had no notes.
Nice.
And the introduction and exit of Q was just so perfectly bookended.
Mhm.
What can I do to prove I'm mortal? Die.
Die. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like brutal.
Yeah.
Just the idea of like he shows up midair naked and then leaves with a mariachi band. I'm like, this is cool.
Yeah.
This is
Maybe
so
he's
cool.
learned his lesson.
Probably
Don't
not.
bet on it,
Yeah.
Picard.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I love
Nice.
this episode. It was great.
And, and you.
So yeah, I went into it having only seen, I think, the pilot of the Next Generation,
Which is
being
very
like,
different from what it becomes. Yeah.
So yeah, I was expecting it to be a little bit more modern. I think the first shot you see is there is like a styrofoam moon right up by the camera, and I was like, and then I actually went to Sushan. Was the Next Generation supposed to be a throwback because of all the things you just mentioned, like how it goes to commercial with the dun 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 and the zoom in and like the fade out, you know?
Oh, that's how it was.
Yeah, just all of television was that way.
Yeah, it's not a throwback. It was back.
That's just how it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Never changed. I
And
guess.
some of the having really good stuff, really good quality means that some things you can see that you weren't ever intended to see.
Yeah.
And so you may have seen it that way. Like I've seen this so many times. I'm like, oh, there's that moon.
Yeah.
You know,
I was like,
there's
that
that
is
good old moon.
that is very clearly someone made that with their hands.
I didn't even notice that.
I do appreciate the opening credit sequence of just being like ambient and then whipping the ship whipping through the same shot, just inverted four times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just so cheap but great.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really a lot of fun too, especially I think going in after watching Q's last episode
that's great.
in Picard, and going back to one of his earlier, I thought it was going to be his first appearance.
Oh no, his first appearance is the first episode of the show. Actually,
I forgot about that.
But this might be the first time that he shows like a companionship to Picard, like that there's emotion.
But like Picard's like, what are you talking about?
There is like
fell asleep.
I hate
there's
you.
a respect. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Star Trek: Strange New World was your second pick.
It was. It was
season
my
1,
second pick.
episode
Wait,
1.
Can I say the one I said a lot of these lines I remember, throughout the years.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I remember, I love when, what Data does, his sacrifice, and Picard's like, that's his special nature. And then Q, which is great. It shows Data off very well, and Picard too. But when Q says, when I ask myself if I would have done the same, and I am forced to answer no.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
filled with shame.
Yeah, shame.
Yeah.
And then he decides to go sacrifice himself for the Enterprise. And that has always been one of the many lines of Next Generation that have stuck with me.
I also really like the scene where he goes to Data and kind of yells at him about how much humans suck and how much you shouldn't want to be a
And he
human.
can't talk
but
again
then
yet.
But then he's like, but also you're a better human than
You're
I am.
better being human than
I was
I am.
like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
that was awesome.
He gives him the
was-
laugh at
I
the
was
end.
gonna say,
The laugh was so
cute
good.
at the end.
It made me laugh.
Yeah,
John
I would
Delancey-
do that to you.
John
Yeah.
Delancey is an amazing actor with his subtlety too, because that whole thing was seeded earlier when Data very nonchalantly says that you're begrudgingly receiving what I've
you've achieved in disgrace.
Yeah, you've
what
achieved
I
in
have
disgrace
sought
what I've
after all
sought-
my
yeah.
life.
What a
And
great
that's a
line.
great
That's a
line
good
too.
line.
Yeah.
And the subtlety in which Q receives that information and just brushes it off is so well done.
Cool.
So incredibly well done.
Yeah, it was a great episode.
Thank you. Oh, good. I'm really glad you liked it. Yes.
Another
Strange
great
New
episode.
Worlds.
Star Trek Strange New World.
Strange New World, season 1, episode 1, also titled Strange New Worlds. Also on Paramount Plus, starring Anson Mount, Ethan Peck, Rebecca Romaine, and Christina Chong. Captain Christopher Pike comes out of self-imposed exile to rescue an officer gone missing during a secret mission.
That should actually say Dreamboat Captain Christopher Pike comes out of self-exposed exile
And Patel knows it.
to rescue an officer with his
Pike's Peak, they call it.
brooding
In fandom.
nature.
It's so good.
Right.
He's got such a pompadour.
It
gets bigger.
With the gray.
It's bigger later in the episode.
Oh, it's wonderful. He is a dreamboat.
Yeah.
Especially going up with this one afterwards, it really felt like the Next Generation was very dated. This one feels extremely modern.
Way more modern. And that's how we hope that it is, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is 30 years later and it's coming out right now.
30 years later, but
way earlier
10 years
in the
before
timeline.
the original series.
Yeah.
Which is a great.
Yeah.
Who else could you tell a story about than the captain that the original pilot was centered on, and who shows up and has like such a strong place in Star Trek from one episode and like no history.
Yeah.
You can
Also-
do whatever you want as long as this happens, and him knowing about it gives such gravity.
Yeah.
Because
That was really cool.
Cool,
Yeah.
right?
So I only know about him because of Discovery, where season 2, where his whole crew is there, and that's where he discovers that he's going to melt eventually.
Which we all know,
which
so
sets
it's
up.
so good for the character to know it too.
Yeah.
That they found a way, right?
that's awesome.
Well, it solidifies him as a hero. The idea that like he understands his fate and it is at the saving of others and to continue to go on with it.
Right.
Yeah, it was cool.
Right.
But I also
like
like that he wrestled with that a good deal.
Yeah.
It wasn't
He's-
just like
he continues to for the whole season.
Oh yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah. It's a cool arc with.
Yeah.
Strange New Worlds has a lot of individual stories, unlike Discovery, but this arc runs through it, and it's very cool.
Yeah, the structure of Strange New Worlds is very much like the original series, in so much as there is
And he does the
a
opening.
boiling underlying arc for the whole season, but every single episode is basically its own adventure.
Okay.
It is a much more
Moral
segmented
play
show. Yeah.
or whatever it is. Yeah.
in the chat, Robert Monroe asked, "Do you think that Cronenberg's character should have been Wesley,
Oh, that would have been
an
interesting.
old Wesley, right in the
that would have
future?"
been interesting.
Yeah, but those glasses are cool.
They
Yeah.
are cool. They are very cool glasses.
He wears them just for show.
Yeah.
And Rob says, "I love Will Wheaton, so I'd like to see him come back in. It's cool. He has the ready room, but it feels like a consolation prize. I don't know what that means." He
Ready Room's
cried.
like an after
It's
show.
after show.
Oh.
Yeah.
He cried when they stopped the Kelvin verse. There was room for both Paramount Plus and those.
I agree, and hopefully there still will. Like,
Yeah, they've been talking about doing that
Have they?
prequel set in the Kelvinverse.
Yeah.
and then the Kelvinverse is not technically dead. They just keep trying to mount a fourth movie.
You can do it.
Yeah.
I was surprised that there was like naked, sexy Spock getting
yeah.
proposed to.
Yeah.
I love that whole scene
Yeah.
between twixt him and his
Fiancé.
fiance.
I love
Yeah.
when Pike called him and was like, "Are you naked, Spock?" And then she's in the back. Oh no, he was about to be.
They're very matter of fact. The
Yeah,
Vulcans,
like,
yeah.
no.
He was such a Spock blocker.
Yeah.
Sweet.
That was good.
Thank you. So why did you make us watch this?
So,
Just for that.
Yeah,
for
just
my
for
that
own,
joke.
for my own pleasure. Yeah. So as you guys know, if you were reading the chat, which I know at least Noel was, I had originally picked a different episode, a later episode in the season, and because I
good
similarly, what's that?
A good one.
Also a really good episode. I similarly wanted something that showed off everyone, you know, Spock, M'Benga, and Pike being the main three. They are very cool. M'Benga is a character who was on the original series in a couple of episodes.
Is that the
Doctor.
He's the Doctor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Also, Majel Barrett, later Majel Barrett Roddenberry, Gene Roddenberry's wife, played both Number One and Nurse Chapel in their original incarnations,
Oh, that's fun.
which is kind of funny that there are two characters who were both played by her and should look exactly the same. So anyway, I picked this one eventually because I thought, well, the pilot, I don't know these as well as Next Gen, right? I don't have one that I'm like, this is the one. There's only been 2 seasons, and I thought the pilot gives a good introduction. They do a cool speech at the end. They got a cool
great.
lesson
It
at
was
the
great.
end, right? And you get to see everyone, and it's a good introduction, right, to people who have never seen the show before. So that's why I picked this one. And what do you guys think?
I loved it.
Nice.
I'm just gonna go. I just loved it so
Cool.
much. I'm actually excited to watch more Strange New
nice.
Worlds. I think it's such a fun time, and I like some of the new technology they introduced, like the she able to like change
The
your
genetic code thing.
genetic
Yeah.
code thing.
They
It's
actually
so cool.
Do that in Next Generation too.
Oh yeah.
They don't show it like they do here.
They just have a
but-
different actor.
No. They just, cut away and then they're in makeup.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Just like here, but there's a special effect in
I see.
between.
Yeah. Which I thought was really cool. Although I do think beaming an entire bottle of liquid into someone's eye, a little weird.
Well, I don't think they beamed the bottle, just the
What?
liquid part.
All the liquid. That was a bottle
yeah.
this big with liquid that much in it, and it all went into his eyeball.
Did it go right in the eye? I thought that just went into his system. And it's genetically rewrote.
That's what I thought.
Can't beam a whole bottle into someone's eye.
The eye was just the visual indication that it worked.
Because it rewrote his genetic code. Which, speaking of which, and speaking of Vulcans and Spock being very contained, that scene when they're on the elevator,
he screams.
But right before that, when he's like,
the pain is
so
unbearable.
Your ear is going. He's like, yes, the pain is excruciating.
He
does not react at all.
Yeah.
And then after he does the scream, he goes,
much better.
That's better.
Yeah.
It's an absolutely wonderful
Gregory
show.
Peck's grandson playing Spock, who I think does such a great job as Spock.
Amazing.
Better than Zachary Quinto.
Is he? I was about to ask that question. Is he better than Quinto?
But this guy is just is Spock.
But later on, when you meet the Kirk brothers, Chris Pine's better.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a lot of people are not super into this Kirk, and I wasn't so much the first time I saw him, but he's grown on me.
He does the character wonderfully. It's just like if I had to choose, it's going to be Chris Pine every day.
Sure, I probably
He's just more charming an actor.
Yeah.
I also like that we see young Uhura.
Yeah, she's cool.
Uhura,
she's cool as a cadet.
She was awesome.
Yeah, they do a really good job of seeing, because this is the Enterprise that the first show takes place on. Obviously, it looks way cooler.
Yeah.
But they do a really good job of integrating those things and integrating the Uhura and Spock, and Nurse Chapel is a recurring character on Next Generation.
Oh, I liked her a lot.
Original series. Yeah, she's great. She's
cool.
way cooler in this.
Yeah.
She's given a lot more.
I appreciate that these new shows are respectful of continuity, but also not beholden to it. They're not so incredibly respectful that they refuse to use characters like Kirk.
Right.
Well, Sam Kirk actually is in the original series.
Yeah, but then you'd think that they would other shows would just stop at Sam Kirk. They wouldn't actually introduce James,
Lieutenant Kirk.
Yeah, like the show,
and nothing they've done breaks continuity, but it does. It's certainly not what you would think. They do an episode yesterday.
I have a question.
It dances on the raindrops.
Is it always nice?
Yeah, it does.
Has it always been canon that Spock was with Pike before he was with Kirk?
In fact, that is why he sacrifices his career, or would, and commandeers the Enterprise to bring the wounded Pike back to the planet that you see in the Discovery, and in the original. So that's Pike's episode. Is Spock for some reason takes control of the ship.
Oh,
yeah. There's a deep allegiance between the two of them,
awesome.
Which also does contribute to the static he has with Kirk to begin with.
Right.
Now they also do address in a later episode the changing timeline. So even in the Next Generation era, there had been a eugenics war in the 1990s, which you guys and myself do not recall happening in this world.
We didn't make it.
And it was fine. It was just a different timeline. But they've done one. Some people go back in the past and things are a little different. And Khan is a boy later than he should be. And it's sort of explained things, common time travel story kind of thing. Important events will still happen, but there's a lot of time travel in our lives and some things have changed. Which is nice. Yeah. And they hint at that in this episode, actually, the speech that Pike makes. Then he make good speak. He does. Yeah. He speak well. Yeah. And he mentions the eugenics wars, and then in a very powerful moment. Yeah. So what did you guys think? Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Oh, awesome.
I'm going to be watching more of it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
More modern Trek.
Yeah.
I don't think that I'm going to be watching much more of the Next Generation. That's very of a time.
It's old at this
point.
But
this one, I'm actively
You want to see more?
Yeah.
And it's cool. Discovery is awesome. This is much more of a classic Trek feel. The uniforms look cool.
Yeah. The uniforms were cool. Yeah.
They're all so tight.
Yeah. I always think that at least once per episode, I go, that's really uncomfortable.
These are all
it's a different kind of fabric.
These are all
the Picard maneuver.
Flex out of it.
Actually, the other cast jokingly referred to that as the Picard maneuver.
That's funny.
Really?
When he pulls his shirt down.
They're all incredibly attractive people in great shape, but the fact that I think you can't do a squat.
Yeah.
It's just
what's
so
the nurse
Chapel?
Yeah, she's got a onesie on.
Yeah.
It's like a white onesie.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what I was thinking the entirety of the Next Generation episode that we're watching, because it's just it's all
Oh, that's true. The Qs, both Qs had onesies on.
Well,
they do.
All of the characters have onesies
those are
on.
shirt. Those are two-piece.
Those are shirt.
They
had a little cumber. I thought it was just like a crunch in the.
No, it's
just
actually
elasticity
like a shirt.
It is a shirt. Their original uniforms weren't, and they were like very uncomfortable. But that's why Picard, when he sits down
they're all like
in universe,
pajamas.
there's a maneuver called the Picard maneuver.
That's funny.
But then the other actors, they are still really good friends.
Yeah,
would call that the Picard maneuver.
That's
reminds
so
me of
fun.
The Riker move, the
going
over
the chair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You already said.
Yeah,
You said.
I still like it.
Yeah, my household
Still,
household
today?
is down with all new Trek. We're in
Cool.
disco, and then we're gonna finish.
You've seen all of Strange New World so far.
We have not finished the second season.
Okay.
So we don't really watch them weekly. Like we
Yeah.
like I found out, like I knew that Discovery was coming back, but we didn't start watching it until like 6 weeks in.
I got you.
And then Strange New Worlds, we just put out. We put it on a burner because we knew the third season was coming. So it was just like we'll catch up on this after we catch up on the other stuff that people are talking about. But we're big fans in the house.
Nice.
Hold on a second.
Nice.
So we were talking about Picard the other day, and you said you skipped season 2.
Yes.
Straight to season 3.
I skipped half of season 1 also.
I talked to a customer. What's his nuts? Wednesday he comes. Howard, and he says that 3 was the worst season because it was all member berries.
Disagree.
Yeah.
Should he have skipped season 2? Should he watch season 2?
Probably not going to go
I
back.
liked season 3 better than season 2. I also liked season 2. There was a lot of nostalgia in season 3.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Okay.
And they did cool stuff.
You like member berries?
And
You remember them?
I remember them.
You remember those berries?
And I
bro?
love eating them.
So here's what happened.
It was also a cool season.
I started season 1. I got bored about 3 episodes in. I'll go back to it. Years passed.
Yeah.
Season 3, everyone's talking about. It's over. I get COVID. I watched all 10 fucking
Did you like it?
episodes in like a week, and it was fine. It was fun.
It was fun. Yeah.
It really was just like another half season.
It was
of
a next generation send off.
There was a lot of stuff.
The original movies were that far after the original series.
There was a lot of things that were just like, yeah, that person's that. Yeah, that thing is there. Oh, this one's gonna show up. It was so on the nose and very, very much member berries that I could totally tell why people were hating it. But also I was like, I'm sick and this is comfortable.
So to me, season 2 of Picard, I felt the same way about that. But I was like, that was part of the charm of it.
Everyone was bitching about it.
I
so
loved it. I thought it was a good story
Yeah.
by itself. It's impossible for me to separate like, oh, do I like this because I love that show?
Yeah.
And I'm seeing them in situations that I want to see them in.
Yeah.
The nostalgia was very cool too. And the way that they showed it, like you go to the like Fleet Museum, which they mention in an episode of Next Generation, and there's all these old ships there, and one of them is Voyager, and one of them is a same class as the original Enterprise, and it's cool. You know,
I didn't feel like I missed anything when I skipped 2. To be honest,
I always think that's such an interesting argument when people are like, "Oh, it's just nostalgic," and it's like, "Yeah, you like this thing because you liked it before."
And you
It's
still
like,
you want to see more
exactly.
of it.
You know what? I will only accept that argument if it offers me nothing more than nostalgia.
True. Yeah.
Nostalgia got me in the door. It was a fun sit.
Yeah.
If it was not a fun sit, then nostalgia bullshit.
Right, that's
You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
it gets you in the door. That's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
Chris Dunn says, dang it, I didn't know it was Star Trek night. And then Robert Brown Jr. says, and the Bell riots are supposed to take place this September.
That is true.
Oh, shit.
It's seen in the DS9 2-parter episode, Past Tense.
Yeah.
What do we have to do to prepare?
But that's okay.
There's nothing you
Okay.
can do. But it leads to something really good after a lot of trouble.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
So, all right,
Can
everybody out
I,
there.
before
Yes.
we sign off, I'm just going to read these episode titles for other things of Next Gen that someone might like.
You have 30 seconds.
These were other
I'll write it down.
possibilities. Cause and Effect,
Love it.
Ship in a Bottle,
Didn't like it.
Darmok.
Worst.
Won't watch it.
You haven't seen any of these.
I know.
The
Internet.
Defector, which was my almost pick. Very
More
cool
so
episode.
than all these other almost picks.
This was the almost of
Almost.
the
The
picks.
almosty.
The most
The
almost.
almostiest.
Yeah.
The almostiest.
The Chase,
allest.
which is the episode. This was one of the top 7. The Chase was
Top
the
7.
episode that the Discovery stuff is dealing with. That Rob Patey said, "Don't watch it." I
I'm
said,
gonna
"Watch it."
I'm going to watch it.
Thank you.
Which one is that?
The Chase.
Chase.
I want to watch all of these.
Nice. I'll send you the list.
Please
And
do.
anyone
I
else
was
who
just going to
asks.
ask you to.
We'll put the list in
Redemption.
the chat
Sure.
of the notes
Absolutely.
of the show. Yeah.
Redemption parts 1 and 2, which is a big Klingon thing, and All Good Things. Maybe one of the best series finales of
was
any
that the
show.
last one?
Yeah, two-parter also. Time travel stuff. This Enterprise is from an averted alternate possible future with the third nacelle. And I would like to end this part. It didn't do that in the show. I don't know why it does it in the model. But Riker captains, or he's an admiral. That's his ship in this future. And in the episode Parallels, we learn that there's all kinds of possibilities. So this quote of many, many quotes that I have loved from Next Generation is from an episode where Picard and Crusher are in a real tight spot. And he said, "There's a way out of every box. There's a solution to every puzzle." And that is one line that has always stayed with me.
Nice.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your love of Star Trek. It has actually ignited some for me as well. So that's wonderful.
Before we leave, can you tell everybody what we're going to talk about next week?
Hey, guys. And everyone. But I use guys as a pretty neutral term, but not everyone takes it that way. So I'd like to invite all the Gentlethorpes and everyone else to our review of Blackest Night. Gentlethorpes is from Futurama.
Thank you.
Hedonism bot, probably my favorite recurring bot. He addresses the Gentlethorpe, courtesans and Gentlethorpes before Fry's opera. And we're going to talk about Blackest Night. And I have a Flash theory that we're going to talk a little bit about as well. And I believe we'll be joined by our very good friend, Len, the Bat Tribble.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Join us next week where we discuss Blackest Nights. Blackest Night.
Just one.
Just one.
Just one Blackest Night.
It all takes place in one day. Spirits can do it. Of course, they can do anything.
We love you. And we'll talk at you later.
Yeah. Next week.
Doo-doo.
Dun 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 dun.
Bwomp.
YUNKJunk!